Here for the Watkins Glen 212 here on Checkered Flag Interactive. It's Steve, Bone Steel, Shane Doherty, and Cody Wenzen up in the booth here tonight as we get ready to go racing once again here as the season is coming down to the wire for these drivers. We're in the final elimination round here before we get just a couple of drivers ready to go to Homestead. And here at Watkins Glen, 45 laps. It'll go by in a flash, just over an hour of racing. We've got 20 drivers getting ready to duke it out here tonight. Let me talk about the points here, as point implications are going to be very, very important today. First off, it's Corey Hoover who's locked into that final round here. Joseph Tice is right there as well. Michael Lariah, Joe Lawrence, and then Chad Coleman. That's your top 5 in points, and then looking just outside that top 5, it's Michael Finlayson, Bradley Burke, Alan Cryer, 48 points out at 2,000 after missing last week's event. Chances are Alan Cryer will be eliminated, but for everybody else, Joseph Tyson, everybody behind him, they're all on the bubble here, as they all have a chance to be taken out at a moment's notice. So here tonight at Watkins Glen, we're going uphill, downhill, all around left and right, and everybody out there needs to make the best effort that they can to get a solid finish. Top 5, top 3, or a win will guarantee you into the next round, the final round at Homestead Miami Speedway in just a couple of weeks' time. It's Thursday, June 2nd, 9 o'clock here on CFI, the 18th race of the season. Who's going to make it in next week? We go to Phoenix International Raceway for the Road Life 150. 150 laps there at Phoenix. It will go by in a heartbeat, and luckily for Corey, that's one of his tracks he seems to struggle at quite a bit. So he's safe there since he's already locked in. But for all of those other drivers, the implications of tonight will definitely roll into Phoenix, and whoever can definitely take advantage of next week's race will be the driver who benefits greatly going into Homestead.
And I would say even before Corey didn't have a win coming into tonight, this would be a really good track for him to get that win. And even if he does win tonight, that'd be 2 wins. And, well, he's already locked. That's just more momentum for that team, obviously, heading into Phoenix. It's been up and down from there, Steve. Really, as you said, he's been pretty good there as well. So we'll just have to see how Rick can fare. But plenty of other guys behind him for the entire night we're going to have to watch, because it's a huge opportunity for them. They're not been the greatest so far on the ovals. And run well tonight on the road course, get him a better chance to move into that final round.
And here as qualifying is wrapping up, I'll take you through the results here as they finalize and come across the screen. Corey Hoover will start on the pole. Austin Hartenfels in second. Chad Coleman, Justin Munsell, Joe Lawrence, Lariah, Tice, Burke, Dyson, and Finlayson. That's your top 10 here for the starting grid, and notable there on that top row, Finlayson and Hoover actually over a quarter of a second quicker of Chad Coleman, Munsell, and everybody else behind them. So we always see those two drivers duke it out, and tonight I have a feeling it's going to be much of the same.
And just not far behind those guys from 5th all the way back to 8th. You got Joe Lawrence, Lariah, Tice, and Bradley Burke. So there you go. 4 guys in the points trying to go for it here. Going to be lining up side by side. So there you go. If you want to start up front, you can do a really nice job of hopefully getting a good start and setting the pace early. So those guys do a nice job, but we'll just have to see throughout the night. Track position's one thing, but keeping it for the entire 45 lap, a whole nother story. So as we wait for these guys to grid, it's going to be interesting to see this start. You're going to have Corey Hoover, Austin Hartenfels. They've pretty much been up front 1 and 2 every road course gone to over the last couple of races and even last couple of seasons here in the Sportsman series. So it'd be no surprise that those two get out front and kind of pull away here in the first couple laps. But then after that, guys pretty much equal on times. You have to go from third roughly back 10th there. So those 7 spots with half a second. So those guys relatively on the same pace. It's just going to be race pace. Can they keep that up consistently? That's going to decide those running spots. Plenty of guys in the points within that gap. Also guys like Justin Munseel. Nothing really to lose for him. Ryan Dyson's in there as well. So those are going to be guys probably taking it a little bit more aggressive here, using the tires early, just trying to keep, or at least trying to get to the front and then stay there and do the best they can. So it's going to be interesting. Got guys in different agendas, and especially in road course racing when the space gets tough, you have to really kind of lobby your way through and just do the best you can, hang tight. So these guys will make their 1 pace lap here. Walker's International, it's only 8 turns, one of the most highest average speeds road course. It's very fast road course, what I'm trying to say there. That's pretty poorly said, but it's really fast, especially for any stock car here. It's a lot faster than Sonoma, a lot faster than Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Road America, you name it. This is the fastest road course on the schedule. Guys have got to manage tires. They got to keep their space and ground up to date, because there's not a lot of room here compared to some road courses to combat the speed. So it makes it just that much more interesting to kind of deal with for the rest of the night. As the pace car pulls in, Corey Hoover, Austin Hartenfels, RCA Racing on the front row, going to bring them up the hill to the green. 45 laps scheduled for tonight, and we're racing.
Corey Hoover gets a good jump on the start. He'll lead him in turn 1 with Austin Hartenfels right behind, and then they're still pull wide behind. A lot of cars side by side through turn 1 there.
And really, just as I predicted, Corey and Austin, they're gone. Pretty much bump drafting up front. They are pulling away, and everybody else is jostling behind them. Looks like the battle for 4th on back is going to be the big spot to watch. Looks like we've actually got some cars stopped just out of that first turn. They're going to be stopped up there. Walker Thomas, Jacob Adams is stopped. There's no cautions being able to be thrown tonight here, so interesting to see what comes of that. Nonetheless, those guys do a nice job to clear out and continue on. Plenty of guys with front end damage back there. Going to have to follow that. Trevor Roffalo, Jamie Haley's got some damage. Dalton Alexander especially. And Bradley Burke's actually on pit road. One of the guys in the points involved in an incident on the first lap.
Yeah, what it looks like is the number 95 of Nick Massey caught a little bit of the curb on the right side through the first S and came to the left into Bradley Burke, and that just caused a chain reaction with a couple other cars.
It's really unfortunate. 45 laps, long nights, guys. Don't go to many road courses, and to see their car already tore up in the first turn after limited practice and qualifying, that's definitely too bad. So it looks like it's going to end most of their guys' nights because of that front end damage. I know Bradley Burke's still on pit road. He's got front end and rear end damage. Going to go a couple laps down early on. As the first 2 laps are completed by our leaders, he is still there in his pit stall. So what a tough break for Bradley Burke, and plenty of other of those guys were just trying to go out there, have a good time tonight. Unfortunately, taken out early.
I don't know if I'm seeing this right, but it looks like the rear end of the 33 of Corey Hoover and the front end of the 29 of Austin Hartenfels have taken some damage. I don't know if they got into each other at some point. It might just be cosmetic damage, but if there's any suspension damage or anything, that can really hinder you at a road course.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd have to look and see where that happened. Might have been on that third lap. One turn where Corey kind of slowed down a little bit more than Austin was predicting, and he still had a couple car lengths or so between, so maybe it was just one of those situations where Austin was just following him too close, and then they really had no opportunity to check up, and they got into each other. But nonetheless, as you said, Cody, that's not terrible damage for a road course. As long as that car's turning, you're really going to be just fine.
Oh, it just looks like coming into the second last turn on the lap 2, Austin Hartenfels just misjudged when Corey Hoover was going to brake and got into his rear end a little bit. It was very light contact. Don't think there's going to be any damage other than cosmetic.
Yeah, that definitely won't really hurt Corey as much as it might hurt Austin, especially with those engine temps. He's going to have to watch those and just keep up to date. You definitely don't want to overheat here, and with all the shifting you do, it's very possible with front end damage that will happen. But nonetheless, pretty dominant performance so far from Corey Hoover and Austin Hartenfels. They are still within half second and still leading the pack by over 2 seconds. Chad Coleman surprisingly hanging pretty tight there in third, only about a second off of those two. So he's doing a nice job. Justin Munseel not far behind there in fourth. And you get the whole train of guys like Joe Lawrence, Joseph Tice, Ryan Dyson's kind of between them now, but also Michael Araya, some of those guys, points contenders inside the top 10 right now, doing a nice job. And those guys just trying to hang on for dear life, especially after someone like Bradley Burke gets taken out here early. That definitely opens up the window for the rest of these guys to gain some serious points and obviously, help that ground for next week. We're starting to see guys kind of bunch together. He's trying to do the best they can, probably ride a little bit, definitely don't want to be too aggressive. But already, a couple laps in, got to start thinking about fuel strategy. It's a 45-lap race, so you can't exactly cut it in half, but still, going 21, 22 laps or so seems pretty reasonable, considering that would be splitting the race basically into two halves. But it's always those guys who either pit early, kind of short pit, get tires early, trying to offset strategy, or even guys that'll run the tank dry. You can go about 30 laps, so you could possibly cut it into only doing 15 at the end. I don't know if anyone's going to do that, but still, just kind of something to consider here early on. Starting to see a battle for fourth continue to come into picture. Justin Munseal's doing a nice job there, holding it up in fourth, but he's got guys Joe Lawrence and Joseph Tice coming right behind him, fifth and sixth positions. They're catching him in a hurry here, about 6.5 to 7 seconds already off the lead. But nonetheless, this is still key spots for some of these guys. And for Justin Munseal, it's a great opportunity, obviously. Doesn't run the full schedule. Come out here tonight, get a top 5 in a road course would be definitely impressive, but he's got a lot of strong guys hungry, not only for wins, but for points, more importantly, really. And obviously into that final round of the chase, so he's going to have all that to deal with. And speaking of battles for it, looks like Joseph Tice and Joe Lawrence going to go side by side. Bus stop's going to decide it, and Joe Lawrence will go ahead and let Joseph Tice back, and Tice takes over the spot. Well, no really big-time movers within the top 10. Chris Wright started 18th. He's up to 10th. He is the biggest mover currently out there right now. Pretty much everyone else has stayed where they started. The guys in the back were caught up in that early first lap crash. They were back there, so they really haven't moved up much, obviously. Some guys off the racetrack, Bradley Burke, Trevor Roppolo, currently behind the wall at the moment, so they might be done for the night, unfortunately. And that would leave 17 cars left out there, with only 14 of them already on the lead lap, and that number will get smaller as those guys run around with it. And just very few cars out there tonight, unfortunately. That just means one less hassle, though, for the leaders.
I think the leaders may have a little bit less trouble with lapped cars in this race than they did last week at Martinsville, though, because at Martinsville you had a lot of cars fighting to stay on the lead lap, because if you got a yellow, you were right back in it and you could fight for some positions, whereas at the road course here at Watkins Glen, there are no yellows, so there's really no reason to fight to stay on the lead lap, because you're not fighting with those cars behind you, and there's no yellow to save you and keep you on the lead lap.
Right, and there's definitely no point, especially if you're going a lap down to kind of fight the leaders. Good chance, no cautions, as you said. You're just not going to be able to pick up the pace, get by them, and drive an entire lap around basically, and then go battle them for the win. It's not going to happen. So for these guys, when they do end up being caught by the leaders, should probably move over easily. But then again, there's just not a lot of room here, and we've seen some pretty ugly endings with guys slower off the pace and just kind of out in the way, and then they end up causing some issues. But for Walker Thomas, he did a nice job there. Used the runoff area, kind of moved over, let Corey by, so that's pretty impressive by him. And we'll just have to see what some of these other guys do for the rest of the night. I believe Jacob Adams is the next car to be caught by Corey, who's just now starting to extend that lead over Austin Hertenfeld.
Yeah, Corey and Austin were actually side by side going into turn 1 on this lap, and the 29 Austin Hartenfels went a little bit off into that runoff area, and he had to cut it back onto the track to avoid going on the grass, and as he rejoined the track, he almost lost the car, so he lost a lot of time doing that.
Yeah, definitely, though, still a long way to go in the race, so, let off the gas, just kind of save the car. If you're going to take a couple seconds of a loss, it's not worth crashing out, and obviously not having a chance to really get back out there and gain any spots whatsoever. So good call by Austin there, and we'll just have to see if he can catch Corey back up here for this next green flag pit stop.
And it looks like here on lap 14 we only have 14 cars running in the race still. Looks like the number 38 of Shane Terrian and the 69 of Dalton Alexander have also pulled it behind the wall. So now we have 5 cars that have pulled it behind the wall. And only 12 left on the lead lap.
Yeah, and I think all those guys were involved in that first wreck, so unfortunate for them. Looks like, with no cautions, really no opportunity to repair the car, so you're pretty much going to already finish back there, or just pull it into the pits, get the work done, and then it's kind of up to them if they want to go out there and make some laps for the rest of the night. Really not going to pick up a lot, and there's not a lot to learn, obviously, since we only go to one road course or so. every 3 months. So unfortunate for those guys, and I guess they're just gonna have to pack it up and look forward to Phoenix next week. But something to mention coming up here when Corey does cross the line this next time by, it'll signal 1/3 through this race already. 15 down, that'll be 30 to go. It's pretty much flying at this point. It's only been about 17 minutes since we took the green, and already some guys find themselves over 10 seconds off the lead, basically from 5th on back, starting with Joseph Tice. Already 10 seconds off at least, and Joe Lawrence is down pretty much 12 seconds now. At this point in the race, only 1/3 through, so not really in contention for the win, but still those guys have a bit of their own to kind of keep the spots around.
Yeah, and for these championship contenders, if you aren't in the top 3 or 4 in this race, you probably aren't going to win this race. So all the points you can get this race are worth it going into Phoenix next week to try and secure yourself a place at Homestead.
And
go ahead.
And if Corey ends up winning tonight, I'm sorry to interrupt, I was just going to say though, if Corey wins tonight, that's 2 wins. We documented it earlier. It's not really going to affect anyone since Corey's already locked into the next round. Then it's really going to be up to points. So those guys, every spot from here into next week into Phoenix is really going to matter. And then those guys who finish in front of the rest of everyone in the standings are going to be the ones who are going to end up in Homestead. And if you're running 7th, but 2 or 3 guys in front of you are running 4th through 6th, you're just not going to be in a good spot with points. And if you go out there and do it again next week, just obviously not going to have it add up. And could be a couple spots depending on if you're in Homestead or if you're out of the chase.
Seems like a battle for 8th maybe starting to brew between Ryan Dyson and Michael Finlayson. They're within a few tenths of each other. Probably the 2 closest cars on track for position right now.
Yeah, they're already 25 seconds off the lead, so obviously they're one of those guys in the opportunity where the spots around them is basically what they're racing for from here on out. And in Ryan's case, he's doing a pretty nice job of holding off Finlayson, but they are so close right now in lap times already. Almost 20 laps in this event. Pretty impressive how that is, but it's going to be key here, especially if pit stops come around here in the next couple of laps or so. Getting on and off pit road, electing what time to come down pit road could be key as well, obviously, to getting in front of that guy, and then obviously having the track position to hold him off.
With pit stops so close right now, I'm kind of surprised that they're fighting so hard right now. Like, they were side by side most of lap 18 there.
Could be maybe that Ryan's just doing a nice job trying to hold off Finlayson, or maybe Finlayson thinks that if he gets in front of Ryan here, uses the tires up, knowing he's coming to pit road anyways, he might have a good chance to obviously come out in front of him and just kind of hold him off for the rest of the event. Who really knows there, but from what I've seen, loose off and rear tires definitely not as big as I thought it would be this late in the run. Relatively fine, and really no one's having any issues with that. So it seems like the grip level is there, and everyone's just kind of out there on older tires racing.
And it looks like Ryan Dyson will be pulling onto pit road now for his scheduled stop, as well as Austin Hartenfels is also on pit road.
And that's key information, because Austin's going to come down from the second spot, and he's the only one to come down from the top 5. So Corey's going to stay out there, Chad, and everyone else. And in Ryan Dyson's case, great example of him trying to get in front of Finlayson and stay there. Coming in a lap early, definitely going to have fresher tires, and he could come out at least a couple seconds in front of Finlayson when it all cycles through.
You got to think we'll be seeing Corey Hoover come down this lap though, because you don't want to let Austin Hartenfels get too much of an undercut on you here on new tires. It'll make up a lot of time.
And that's exactly what he does. Still had a pretty decent lead, but nonetheless, as you said, Cody, you can't stay out there on old tires, especially when you got guys running almost 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds faster than you on those newer tires. So Corey will bring it to the attention of his crew that first pit stall, and we'll see where he comes out.
Like Corey Hoover does come out with a couple seconds to spare on Austin Hartenfels here.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be key, because now he's going to have a lap fresher tires, and if anything, that is an advantage for Corey. So that's a nice job on his part. And we'll just have to watch everyone else, because there's going to be some guys who stay out, some guys who just kind of going and kind of decide the tires will matter at the end, and they're not exactly right now. But from what I'm seeing, Joseph Tice, he was still out there. He's coming to pit road. Chad Coleman was still out there. Looks like he could be coming to pit road as well. So then after that, I should see everything cycle.
I was watching Corey Hoover there. The 84 Walker Thomas was very slow on track. Don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, he's kind of been out there just, kind of limping around, trying to do the best he can to stay out of the way, but unfortunately was almost in the way and almost got clobbered from Corey, and did a nice job to kind of lobby his way around and got around Walker and was able to keep going, but that could have been huge because there are no cautions. So if Corey gets involved in that wreck, anyone behind him's got a chance to be involved, and Then it could just be one ugly situation in that final turn with really no way of stopping it.
Yeah, it looks like he just got loose out of that second last corner and then went for a spin and almost collected the number 14 of Michael Finlayson, who's running in the top 5 right now, and then pulled to the left of the track right in front of our leader, Corey Hoover, so that could have taken out 2 of our front runners.
So Joseph Tives comes out with Joe Lawrence and Justin Muncio within a second of him. Those 3 guys will be battling for position when it all cycles through. Technically, Joseph Tives led the last lap, and now Corey's back in the lead. So he begins leading once again, and from this point on, it looks like they will be good to go from here on to the finish. So with that 2.5 second, almost 3 second lead that Corey has over Austin now, that could be all he needs at this point for the rest of the race. So from the looks of it, a couple of guys still to come down. Chris Wright and Nick Massey I'm showing still out there in the top 5. So those guys definitely have not made their way to pit road yet. They will be coming here sooner than later. Definitely can make it a lot farther on fuel. Then so far from here, it can be almost 30 laps, and we just hit lap 25 right there. In those guys' case, they could go an extra 5 laps, go out there, then make their pit stop and be significantly faster on newer tires. We'll just have to watch and see if maybe that comes into play. But anytime you're out there on really old tires compared to guys on newer tires, you're usually losing a lot of spots and probably a ton of time as well.
A couple laps past halfway in this race, with Chad Coleman in 3rd place, 14.4 seconds off the lead. This really has become just a 2-car race between Corey Hoover and Austin Hartenfels. Austin's only 2.6 seconds behind Corey Hoover, but that can be a big gap to try and gain back here at Watkins Glen. And I think it's going to be very hard for Austin to catch Corey Hoover, because I haven't seen Corey make any mistakes tonight. I mean, he's got a very fast car, and it doesn't look like he's driving out of his ability. Like he seems very in control of that car and hitting every apex on this track.
That's pretty typical of Corey, especially on road courses. Does a nice job, is pretty consistent. Did have some rear end damage there, but that was really him and Austin Hartenfels just being bumper to bumper. You know something like that's going to happen. Thankfully, nothing really came of it, and he's just been dominating ever since. And all he has to do at this point in the race is just hang on. Pit stops are over. Save those tires, navigate through any traffic you might have, and then bring it home at this point. And it could be huge to see Corey go out here, have 2 wins already, head into Phoenix next week with basically nothing really to care about at that point, being so far locked into that final round.
Well, he may have nothing to care about in terms of locking himself into Homestead, but I think Phoenix could still be a very important race for Corey Hoover, because if you sweep this round of the chase, you have so much momentum going into Homestead and so much confidence that could really help Corey.
Definitely could, but what could really help Corey at the moment would be for someone to go out there and slow Austin Hartenfels down, because he's coming about a 10th or so per lap at this point, and it's kind of interesting to see because Hartenfels pitted a lap earlier, but nonetheless has been faster than Corey the last couple of laps. Kind of interesting. It's only 1 lap on the tire difference, but still, definitely not expecting that, at least from what we were kind of predicting. But for Austin Hartenfels, down to less than 2.5 seconds, and if he keeps his pace up, he may or may not still have a pretty good chance to catch Corey.
I'm wondering a little bit, though, is this Austin's pace, or has Corey dialed it back a little bit now that he's got a huge lead?
Yeah, it might be that, trying to at least back up a little bit, save some tires, and understand the situation. That last time by, exactly 2/10 was Corey faster than Austin. So he kind of picked it back up there, had a lot better lap. It extends it just over 2.5 seconds now. So it's going to be back and forth, I think. But for Austin, it really makes some big ground. He's going to have to come to a point in the run where he's going to gain every lap, and it's going to have to be at least 2/10, and then he can really solidify himself if he can keep that consistency. But that's going to be a lot, knowing how talented and just really the tire situation on Corey Hoover's case.
The battle for 5th between the 78 of Joe Lawrence and the 5 of Joseph Teese is starting to get a little tense. They're bumper to bumper as they head towards turn 1.
Yeah, Joseph came out a lap 2 later than those guys and just has not had the pace to keep up with them and get by him on slightly fresher tires. Justin Muncil's done a nice job of just holding tight in 4th all night. Started there, has stayed there the entire evening, so he's had basically little to no drama. Joe Lawrence much of the same, started 5th, currently 5th, and just trying to hang on at this point. Alright, as we continue to watch Corey Hoover to leave, we'll take this chance, take a commercial break. We'll be right back to bring you the finish here tonight. The Watkins Glen International Raceway, UpperEdge, London Recreational Racing Sportsman Series. As we'll be right back here, Corey Hoover continues to lead over Austin Hartenfels, Chad Coleman, Justin Munseal, and Joe Lawrence.
We are 24 Designs, Jeff Gordon Graphics and more. We make custom graphics, logos, and even iRacing paint schemes. Check us out on the web at www.24-designs.com for requests today. Again, that is 24-designs.com. 24 Designs, where the best graphics are made. We are 24 Designs, Jeff Gordon Graphics and more.
Back here live at Watkins Glen International Raceway, Corey Hoover continues to dominate. Nothing's changed. The lead over 4.5 seconds now over Austin Hartenfels. Got to go 18.5 seconds back to Chad Coleman. 26 back to Justin Munseal, and then 28 back to Joe Lawrence. Absolute domination by Corey. We're going to be entering here a couple laps away from 10 to go already. Seems like this race is flying by, and flying by quickly for Corey and everyone else. And we'll just continue to follow that story, see if he can wrap it up here in the closing stages.
And a very intense moment there between the 78 of Joe Lawrence and the 5 of Joseph Teese. Going into the bus stop there, they were side by side, and neither of them wanted to give up the position. And they made a little bit of side-by-side contact. They almost lost it, but they kept it going straight. And it looks like it's just cosmetic damage because it was very light contact. But definitely a very scary moment if you're in one of those two cars there, as you're fighting for a top 5 position here.
And at the same time, we know Joseph Tice has pretty much been behind Joel the entire night, and especially Justin Munseal is pulled away from the scene at this point now, kind of out of the picture. But it's kind of important if you get a position or a run on a guy, you have to take it, especially how long this race has been and how few laps are coming up here to make a move like that. So you can't blame Tice for making something like that, but he just, unfortunately can't complete it, and we'll have to just try again and see what he can do.
Yeah, I think Tice does have a little bit more speed here, and he's starting to get a little upset that he can't get by. Because maybe he could go fight with Justin Munseal for 4th then. But he's just got to find the right place to make a move.
Corey Hoover will make his way onto the front straightaway, and that will be officially 10 laps to go at this point. 35 down, just 10 laps left, and he continues to dominate. 5.5 seconds now up on Austin Hertenfels. It's pretty much a lost cause when it comes to battling for the win here, and actually just went up to 6.8 seconds of a lead. Continues to grow break time, but yeah, Corey's got this in the bag, just has to hang on. He, like several other guys, are out there just kind of putting around on their own pace. No one really in front of them, no one behind them. They're just going to end up finishing where they are at the moment if they can just keep it on the racetrack. Guys like Nick Massey, he's got no one around him. Michael Finlayson, kind of Michael Laraya. He's got about 5 seconds back to some other guys, but for the most part, he's going to be there. And then obviously Chad Coleman, who's been steadily in 3rd all night. Really haven't mentioned him at all, but just doing a nice job and really hasn't had anyone around him the entire night.
It looks like the 28 of Ryan Dyson has pulled his car onto pit road. He was running a lap down. Don't know if he gave up on getting any more positions or what, but it seems like his night may be over because he's been sitting there for a couple laps now. He hasn't pulled it behind the group wall yet, but you got to think he's been sitting on pit road for a couple laps. Is he really going to go out anymore at this point?
Well, he can only get passed by one more car, and that's Walker Thomas, who's 3 laps away from doing so. He's just been kind of around the racetrack at this point. But, it's been a tough night for Ryan. Kind of got involved in some wrecks. Had some rear end damage. I don't know if that was from that first lap wreck. Might have been from someone else getting into him. But, for the most part, he's had a pretty clean night. Just hasn't had the speed, and looks like he'll pull it off there. And as you said, Cody, uncertain if he'll go back out there or not.
Looks like the number 9, Trevor Rapolo, 29 laps down, running in 17th place, has come back on the track. He could gain up to 15th place by the end of this race. There is enough time for him to make up 9 laps, but looks like he's just out there trying to get a couple spots before this thing ends.
Yeah, just trying to salvage what he can. It's been a tough night for Bradley, and you got to think that a night like tonight going to be pretty much outside the top 15, unless other things occur. It's going to drop him down in the points. No Alan Cryer tonight, so he won't drop nearly as far there, but still at the same time, watching a bunch of those guys, Joseph Tice, Joe Lawrence, up there in the top 6, and that's just not helping his cause at all, and unfortunately going to drop quite a few points, and pretty much going to need a miracle coming into next week to, obviously advance into that final round.
And as Corey Hoover comes out of the final corner, that will be 5 to go in this race as he starts lap 41.
And really, tonight's going to go down as one of those nights where no cautions occur. Really, obviously not going to happen here tonight on road courses. No cautions in the UpperEdge Sportsman Series on road courses, but that really did benefit Corey because we had some wrecks in the beginning, had some incidents in the middle of the race. Obviously, nothing stopping there, and he's now stretched it out to 11.5-second lead. Austin Hartenfeld's tires pretty much gone. He's going to probably finish second. Chad Coleman's kind of fading a little bit now, but still 4 seconds up on Justin Munseal, and then Justin's got about 1.5 seconds on Joe Lawrence. So all those guys have decent buffering room, and if they can just hang on here in the closing laps, they will finish where they are at the moment and bring it home here pretty solidly, though, considering this race pretty short, and obviously Watkins Glen a really tough road course to race at.
The 3-car battle for 4th that we've seen a little bit of tonight, they've had a little bit of separation most of the night between Justin Munseal, Joe Lawrence, and Joseph Teese. They're starting to get very close as these last couple laps wind down here. Could see a position change or two there before the end of this thing.
Yeah, Justin Munseal's kind of backing up to Joe Lawrence, but Joseph Tice has just been working on Joe all night. He cannot get around him, and from this point on, pretty much older tires is going to be even tougher. The only way really to pass at Watkins Glen is to outbrake the guy, get a position. The bus stop's been a pretty good area to pass, especially considering older tires, but Joe Lawrence been doing a nice job holding off Joseph Tice, especially when they made contact there about 10 laps ago or so. That was pretty much it for battling there, and from this point on, I just think like these guys just going to have to hang on where they are. Passing's going to be pretty tough.
Oh, looks like Joseph Teese will make the move as Joe Lawrence went a little wide there out of the second last corner.
And he finally get done. That's pretty impressive, obviously, but that's the point of road course racing. You get one guy just doesn't make a mistake all night, and in the closing laps, last couple turns, a couple laps to go, Joe Lawrence out of the groove, going to give it to Joseph Tice, and that'll put him inside the top 5.
Joseph Tice was right behind Joe Lawrence most of the second half of this race. It'll be interesting to see, was Joe Lawrence holding him up? Can Teese maybe catch up to Munseal and maybe make a move here?
But it's for Corey Hoover. We'll come out of that final turn, turn 8, and take the white flag this time by. We're down to 1 lap to go here in Watkins Glen International. And it's a 14.5-second lead for Corey. He can basically limp it around here, pushing the clutch a couple of times or so. He can basically run a 1.5-second lap time simply and have no issues bringing home this victory. So nice job from Corey to keep all 4 wheels on the ground. He will be set. Same for Austin Hartenfels. Chad Coleman, they're pretty much in no grounds to have something happen, but for the guys back here, especially Joseph Tice, still some things on the line, and he's not too far back from Justin Munseal. Could make something happen here on this final lap.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Corey Hoover has led every lap in this race. Maybe he didn't lead one as the pit stops were cycling, but I think he led all the laps even around the pit stop cycle.
Yeah,
very dominating night for Corey.
Definitely, if you exclude the couple of laps from the pit stops, he basically did lead every lap, was the most competitive, had the most lap times, and especially in the closing laps, last 10 laps or so, been the fastest car on the racetrack by at least half a second. Not even close out of the last turn, turn 8. Corey Hoover going to win it here in Watkins Glen. That's win number 2 in the chase, and he's easily riding high.
And it looks like as they come to the final corner here, Joseph Teese is not close enough to make a move on Justin Munseal. So it looks like Munseal will keep 4th and Teese will finish in 5th.
So Joseph Tice finishes 5th. Lawrence not too far back in 6th. Good for those guys. Michael Larai is going to come back about 4 or so seconds behind those guys in 7th. All 3 of them there lined up in the chase standings. Going to get top 7 finishes. That's pretty impressive, and going to pick up, obviously, the rest of these guys crossing the finish line. Looks like Bradley Burke's going to finish 16th here unofficially tonight. That's about 10 spots off the rest of those guys, so definitely a tough break, going to lose some points. But looks like out of the 19 cars that started, only 10 going to finish on the lead lap. All right, as Corey Hoover gets ready here for the post-race celebrations, we have him here on the interview. Corey went out there, dominated tonight. You pick up your second win in the chase. What does it mean to win on a road course, and how does this momentum carry into these final 2 races?
Yeah, I can finally check this track off the list. Certainly one I wanted to win at. I always love Watkins Glen. It's a track you have to be really, really patient at. That's what I enjoy racing about it. And yeah, good race, solid race overall.
Early on, you had some contact from behind from Austin Hartenfels, and we were concerned a little bit if that would affect both your guys' cars. Obviously, second half of the race, that was not the case. You were able to pull away in dominating fashion. How did that worry you, and was that an issue really at all?
Yeah, early on, I don't know, I guess he said he missed his braking point a bit or overshot it or something. I didn't really feel I underbraked it, but yeah, he certainly got into me. He said his car was fine, my car was not driving any different, so close call. It certainly woke me up a bit, but yeah, glad we came home with a 1-2.
Definitely, and next week we head to Phoenix, the final round of the second to last round, and then obviously to Homestead. You got pretty much the momentum on your side in full tow. Is there anything different you're going to do next week, or are you just going to treat it like any other week?
Yeah, just gonna treat it like any other race, regular season race. Good thing that Joe Lawrence, my teammate, finished 6th, so that puts him in a better position to advance to the next round. So it's always good to have teammates in the chase on your side. Yeah, just treat it like a normal race.
All right, sounds good. Before we let you go, any sponsors or shout-outs you'd like to for tonight's victory?
Yeah, absolutely. Got to thank Medic Gasket, Hunt Brothers Pizza, our Expression Studios, and everyone through UpperEdge and UpperEdge Racing to put on this racing, and CFI, of course, for broadcasting as always.
All right, that's Corey Hoover. Corey, thanks for talking to us. He takes home the victory here in Watkins Glen.